sure you got everything like set up for you. Also,
Yeah, I know.
this like crazy
That's great.
technology. This like phone folds in
Folds
half.
in half. I've had that thing like 3 years.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that, like a compact? It was like,
I thought so too.
That's where I'm at. All right, cool. So let's start with, who are you?
Can you close that door real quick?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they don't want it to lock.
Oh, I see
So,
what they're doing.
yeah. Is that going to be okay?
I think so.
Okay. The mic picks up,
Her voice.
right, so I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your
So, yeah,
voice.
why don't we skip a smidge over? A little bit. That was a little too much. Here, little. There you go, perfect. And then the mic, you might want to pull down a little bit because it's very.
Down?
No, but just a little. It's just a little. Okay, there we go. All right.
Take it ahead.
Who are you? What do you do? Tell me about your company.
So my name is Achsha Jones, and my company's called TripSlip. So field trip permissions. So it's an education company that, well, it's geared towards education. So think about what it looks like when you were a kid and you had to go on a field trip. Most times, the teacher had to give you a permission slip. Hope that you would get it home to mom and dad on time. Hope that you would bring it back signed, probably with money, in enough time for her to then give it to the school, and then turn it into the bank to cut a check for them, to go send to the vendors. This is all before the things that happens. Think about it. What about transportation? What about food? TripSlip brings all of those elements into one place for vendors, for parents, and for teachers.
Okay. Can I get one where you just say your title and the company? Just
Yes.
so I
Oh,
like,
okay.
do it as a headline.
My name is Achsha Jones, and my company is TripSlip.
All right. So, obviously you have a company that you've started, but if today you wanted to start a company, would it be the same thing? Would it be something different?
If I were starting a company today, it would be the same thing because this company took 14 years to come to fruition. I had another business previous to TripSlip called Lunch Break. Break like on your car because it's mobile, and we were building a bus depot. So a carry-out restaurant on a bus. So think a transit-style bus because it has 2 doors. You can walk in through one, hop through one side, go through the other, pick up the food you want. And I was doing that. Pandemic happens, and we pivoted. I'm glad that we pivoted, and I definitely should have done it sooner. It makes more sense to build a company with atoms or with bits instead of atoms. And like, you don't need big things. I can build a tech company, so that's what we're doing.
Love that. Do you mind repeating like that whole bit about like you don't need atoms to build a tech company? Like, could you kind of get
Yes,
into that a
'cause
little bit?
I think
I
That was a
like
good
that.
soundbite. I liked it.
So it's easier for me, that transition happened because it's easier to build a company with bits instead of atoms. So parts, buses, tires, people, versus building it on my computer and building something that's technology centered for our phones, like anything, something that we can do on our tablets, which is what we do every day.
Okay. Yeah, I asked that because like the tech focus, I was like, it's a nice little map. Amazing. If you could go back to you, either like maybe 14 years ago, right, or even recently when you started your company, what would you like? What advice would you give yourself or to another entrepreneur?
So TripSlip started in 2020 and we officially launched in 2021. And the advice that I would give is ask lots of questions. Get involved with organizations that can help. I've been really fortunate. Here in Detroit, we have a plethora of organizations, places, people who help. Tech Time is a big one. Prosperous Detroit is another one. New Lab, Michigan. Like, there's so many different things that you can tap into here in Detroit, here in Michigan, in terms of I need education, I need training, I need funding, I need capital, because capital and funding aren't necessarily the same thing. So being here, I would ask more questions, and I would probably would have tapped in a little bit sooner and started asking questions.
Love that.
That's been like a theme of today. People are like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of resources in the area that can help.
So many, and a lot of them are free or low cost, and they're interested in seeing us succeed. Like, we know that Detroit is having this huge comeback story. I've lived in Detroit my entire life, with the exception of college, on purpose. Came back to Detroit in the early aughts when there was nothing here. There was nothing here. I'm supposed to look at you.
You're okay. You can look wherever. You're totally fine.
But I came to Detroit. I came back to Detroit after college because I knew that I wanted to be a part of the change that I wanted to see. But the things that we were experiencing in Detroit made people leave. Now we're seeing people come back, and it's beautiful, and they should, because cost of living is great, architecture is wonderful. There's so many amazing things to do. I've seen people where I work at New Lab who've moved from Brooklyn to Detroit for that very reason. They're like, wait a minute, I can get a house for half of what I was paying for that shoebox in New York? I'm going to Detroit. So it's very fun to see the city that I grew up in experience a renaissance in real time, to know that my children have a very, very different Detroit experience than I do.
I could not have been a better
Freaking,
answer.
like,
Swoosh.
I was like,
Yes.
yes.
I'm trying not to like gasp on camera because I'm like so excited about that answer.
Wow. I mean, I'm like chills. You like freaking nailed that so hard. That was awesome. Okay. On that, how does Detroit's culture contribute to your company's identity, your business's identity?
Detroit's culture contributes to the identity of my business because I am a Detroiter. Like, I joke that Detroit is my pronoun because I identify as a Detroiter. So it's like, when you think about what it means for a legacy city like Detroit, Motown, Henry Ford, General Motors, all of the things, the innovation that is coming out of Detroit is embedded in the folks who are trying to build or contribute to what's happening in rebuilding Detroit. So the fact that I work in a building at New Lab, which is on the campus of Michigan Central, which is being brought back to life by Ford, and Henry Ford helped to invent mass production. I drive, like, all of these things are embedded in the culture of Detroit. So seeing innovation and understanding that one idea really can change the world, like mass production changed the world. It's not just cars, but everything in the way things are built. But Henry Ford and Ford Motor Company gave way to Motown because Berry Gordy worked at Ford. He applied the idea of mass production to music. So when you think about the innovation that happens from one thing and how it trickles down to so many other things, in Detroit there's the spirit of entrepreneurship, of hustle, grit, and that's what we do here. So it's embedded in the culture of the city, but it's also in me because I'm a fourth generation Detroiter. I need to write my brow. Sorry.
Okay.
You're freaking killing
That
this.
last one.
You're like inspiring me. I'm like, I need to start a company in Detroit. What am I doing?
You
Working
should. Listen, you can be an entrepreneur and have a day job. I just, not even a year ago, I've been an entrepreneur 17 years, and I just started working for myself full time last year in March. So,
Congrats. How's it feel?
Terrible.
Oh.
Very, very hard. Very, very hard. But
You're a tough
it's
boss
great.
on yourself.
That too. But it has its. Am I in the right place? Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, you're good.
So it's great to be an entrepreneur, but it's really difficult because there's no security. But the security that I felt working at these jobs were really shackles. I couldn't be free. They told me when I had to be at work versus, hey, I have to pick up my children from school. I have to take my kids to school. If I don't take them, they don't go. So being able to structure my life outside of a 9 to 5 is great, but doesn't mean I'm only working 8 hours a day. So it's all good. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Love that like random answer I just got. I mean, also, even with a 9 to 5, I don't work 9 to 5, right? So, what are people missing out on by not being in Michigan?
Ooh, everything. We have, the Great Lakes. Let's just start there. We have the world's largest supply of fresh water. Like, forget what you heard about, all the other things. Being able to go on the shore, going on the Detroit River, like, there's so many unique and amazing things about Detroit. I'm an anecdotal historian, but like the fact that Windsor is South Detroit because it's the only place where Canada borders anywhere in America to the south. I think that's super dope. But there's so many great places to eat, things to do, things to see. Like, to be here and to see the spotlight finally being given to these organizations and places that have existed, even in a deficit, is amazing. So to see people loving our waterfront, the riverfront. We've gotten the riverfront has been voted #1 riverfront in America 3 years in a row. And it's only getting better. They're doing so much. The Bridge to Bridge project, if you're not familiar with what that is, the Gordie Howe Bridge all the way to the Belle Isle Bridge is going to be developed. It's going to be walkable. It's going to be entertaining. Like, just the things that they have in the pipeline are insane, but the stuff that's happening here right now, the development, the investment, the renovations, like with Michigan Central Station reopening in June, it was the biggest eyesore that Detroit had for 40 years. So seeing that come back to life is just indicative of all the other things that are happening.
That's so funny. It kind of also was like the riverfront.
Yeah.
No, your arms are
It's good. It's a good workout. Nice and toned by the end of today.
those buys and tries.
That's right.
What's one hidden gem in Michigan?
One?
There are many.
Okay, my favorite hidden gem is the Detroit Historical Museum. So, the Detroit Historical Society owns and operates the Detroit Historical Museum, but they have the Detroit Historical Museum, the Dawson Great Lakes Museum, and the Collections Resource Center at Historic Fort Wayne. The streets of Old Detroit are still my favorite place to go and hang out, but they have different exhibits that change over time, and they're deeply involved in the community to be able to showcase the things that are happening. A lot of people will never ever see themselves in a museum because it usually happens posthumously. So to have it happen while you're still alive and to witness it is really great. So I would say the Detroit Historical Museum. My favorite museum always has been, and probably always will be.
And then, how has Michigan's community culture influenced your growth?
Michigan's community culture. I don't know what it is. Community
Like,
culture?
or Detroit, like just how has the community, I guess, like, and the vibe of like what you were saying earlier, there are like so many people that you go to for help. There are so many resources that are around here. Like that sort of culture of having community where you need it. How has that like kind of contributed to your growth?
That's a great question. The community in Detroit, it's pocketed. You have the entrepreneur community, but then you have retail, and then you have tech, and then you have people who are solo communities. But what's wonderful is to see how everyone collaborates and works together. It's not a race thing. Detroit is still the blackest city in America, but you see people who are collaborating and coming together regardless of that because we've always had to coexist. Detroit has had such a lack of services and just amenities for so long that the urban and suburban are one. Metro Detroit is Detroit, but people get all up in arms about, no, Detroit proper. No, Detroit is Detroit. Metro Detroit is Detroit. We need each other. So I feel like Metro Detroit, the 3 counties, the 5 counties, is a community into itself. And within that community, there's many others, and we're starting to see all of those come together. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, love that. All right, that's it. Do you have anything else that you want? Any riffs or anything? You do not have to.
No, you're great.
Do you want to do the?
Save your arm.
No, how about we do your intro one more time just for safety? Yeah. Yeah.
What did you say?
Like what your name is.
Yeah, and you can. Why don't you say it to the camera too?
Oh, yeah.
While you're looking at it.
My name is